With ArcGIS Pro 2.6, we've added a variety of tools, functionalities, and enhancements. Here's an overview of what's new. With new voxel layers, you can represent multidimensional spatial and temporal phenomena as 3D volumetric visualizations. For example, you can create amazing visualizations for atmospheric data, geological subsurface models, oceanographic data, or a spacetime cube. We're excited to introduce the trace network with ArcGIS Pro 2.6. You can convert an existing geometric network or create a new trace network with a few clicks. You can set and visualize flow direction for edge features to understand how resources flow in the network, and perform advanced tracing analytics to answer questions about your network. Leverage trace results through either a selection set or an output feature class to perform further analysis. You can identify the best site locations or areas to preserve using the new Suitability modeler on the Analysis tab. It's available with the Spatial Analyst extension. This dynamic, exploratory environment of interacting panes, plots, and maps allows you to create refined suitability models. Suitability models can determine the best location to build a shopping center, housing development, or ski resort. They can also find the best areas to set aside for parks, endangered wildlife habitat, or flood control. You can now create and edit graphic elements in maps and layouts. Graphic elements, which are stored in graphics layers, can be used to annotate and highlight maps with text, shapes, lines, and pictures. Graphic elements are flexible and editable. You can arrange, align, merge, group, and change their appearance or orientation from the ribbon or context menus to best fit the purpose of your workflows. In the Parcel fabric, you can evaluate the consistency of your measurements using least squares analysis. You can easily identify measurement outliers using the new analysis layers that come with pre-configured Symbology. With these layers and leveraging heat maps, you can visualize how truly accurate your data is. After running a weighted least squares analysis, you can choose to apply the results to improve Parcel fabric's spatial accuracy. If your data has densified curves, you can fix polygons and lines while maintaining their topological integrity. Link charts allow you to create, manage, and visualize relationships between entities in ArcGIS Pro. With link charts, you add spatial or non-spatial entities that may represent people, locations, events, accounts, or other objects, and then relate these entities by creating links between them. After creating your link chart, you can perform link analysis to explore these relationships, measure centrality, find clusters and neighborhoods, and determine the shortest path between two entities. ArcGIS Pro now creates a backup file for unsaved changes in your project, so they can be recovered if the application closes unexpectedly. You can customize the time interval in the application options. The ArcGIS Pro Start page now links directly to online learning resources, providing easy access to curated lessons, news, blog posts, and more. You can now add toolboxes and styles to your favorites for easy access in all your ArcGIS Pro projects. You can now update existing web maps in your portal using the Save Web Map feature. Open your web map in ArcGIS Pro, add additional layers or analysis results, take advantage of Pro's advanced authoring capabilities to symbolize your map, and then save changes back to the web map in your portal. Since the original item ID is maintained, the other apps accessing the web map will also show the updated content. In 3D, you can change the camera's field of view angle and use first-person navigation mode. You can edit animation keyframes directly in the view, step through time using the unique time steps within the data, create pop-ups with side-by-side elements with full HTML control, and filter table rows using find results. You can now build dynamic image URLs using ArcGIS, add in charts, and use relationship classes to embed related reports. At 2.6, the Pro SDK provides new map authoring support to allow developers to insert, update, and delete map graphic elements, including text. This is the new Graphics Layer Community sample, which has a custom tab displaying a gallery of controls for working with graphic elements. Here you can see how to insert text and point graphics. The API provides the ability to update the geometry and symbology for elements, as well as the ability to control element selection, grouping, alignment, distribution, and ordering. You can now create choropleth maps using the Bivariate colors symbology. Choose 2 attribute fields to symbolize layer features and use the specially designed Bivariate color schemes or create your own with the color scheme editor. You can also customize the design of the Bivariate legend patch from the Symbology pane and manage data classification using the histogram views. Use the new data source editor available from the catalog view to update the data source path of any layer or standalone table in the currently open project. You can manage individual items or switch to workspace mode to update multiple layers and tables at once. The Simplify Building tool has been improved to support larger datasets and better output. In this example, the buildings in black have been simplified into the magenta buildings while maintaining the overall character of the shape. Similarly, Smooth Polygon and Line tools now support better generalization of cases including contours. In this example, the contours in black have been smoothed into these more pleasing brown contours. Finally, we've added the Generate Hatchers for Defined Slopes tool. This tool allows you to generate hatchers as polygons or lines between defined upper and lower slope lines. We've added the ability to set the default label engine and the default font in the application options. You can also set the default text symbol for graphics layers. For point labels, the ability to rank the center zone for placement is now available. When truncating labels, you can now add a list of characters that should never be removed. Label expressions now support spot colors, so you can specify a custom ink color for printing. With the Convert Labels to Graphics tool, you can convert labels to graphics layers, which are also new this release. You can choose to convert unplaced labels to graphics. A new type of map series has been added. The Bookmark Map Series creates map series pages based on bookmark extents instead of features. Custom grids are now available. You can use any line or polygon feature within your map to create a custom grid. We've updated the insert experience for layout graphics. Additional tools are available, including tools to make graphics the same size and rotate or flip graphics. There are 130 new geoprocessing tools in ArcGIS Pro 2.6. One of the new tools, Generate Origin Destination Links, can be used to make spider diagrams, networks of radial lines connecting a central origin to a number of destinations. Another new tool, Features to GPX, is used to convert a feature class or layer to the common GPS interchange format, GPX. Use the new Validate Join tool to analyze a join between 2 layers or tables to determine characteristics of the join, including how many matching records will be joined. Validate Join is also available as a button on the new Add Join dialog. Several ribbon buttons and context commands now open geoprocessing tools in a floating window, so you can perform quick operations in an immediate mode. This includes add join, select by attributes and by location, and calculate field. These operations can now run at the same time as other tools running in the geoprocessing pane. We've enhanced the workflow for scheduling geoprocessing tools to run with more guidance to explain best practices for scheduling, new dialog controls for scheduling recurring operations, and new documentation sections that explain how to manage and configure scheduled geoprocessing tools. A new geoprocessing variable, %t%, allows you to include a numeric timestamp in geoprocessing output data names. You can now create a notebook from the Python button on the Analysis ribbon tab. The new notebook launches immediately in your project. It's stored in your project folder, and you can access it from the Notebooks node in the Catalog pane. Spatial reference objects now conveniently display basic coordinate system information, and geoprocessing results display outputs and messages. Many magic and shell commands are now supported, including %matplotlib inline. And we've improved the syntax highlighting for notebooks in dark theme. At 2.6, ModelBuilder has a new Iterate Fields iterator. You can use this tool to iterate over tables, filtering by field type, a wildcard, or a subset list of fields. These fields' names can then be used to select and calculate the field values. We've also added the option to delete or preserve intermediate data generated only to create the final output. Right-click a variable to set the flag. Also, you can filter the entire model to show variables with the delete intermediate flag set on them. Cycle through them, set or unset the flag, and return to the original extent. New polygon and lasso selection modes allow you to make more precise selections in your chart. Data clocks and calendar heat charts now have a classification histogram, so you can visualize the distribution of your values while dynamically adjusting your class breaks. Bar charts and box plots now support custom sorting, so you can arrange your categories in their logical order. And now, the ArcPy chart object has a new data source property and an export to SVG function, which can be used to display pro charts inside notebooks. After a 3D interpolation, you can export the resulting 3D geostatistical layer to netCDF format using the GA layer 3D to netCDF geoprocessing tool. You can visualize this netCDF file in a scene as a voxel layer. The voxel layer, which is also new at this release, allows you to create volumes, slices, sections, and isosurfaces to explore the results of the 3D interpolation. We've added the time series forecasting toolset to the space-time pattern mining toolbox. These tools allow you to forecast the future values of a space-time cube using curve fitting, exponential smoothing, or a forest-based approach. You can also create a hybrid model that chooses the best forecast method for each location. Interactive pop-up charts display the forecasts from each method. ArcGIS Pro now supports big data connections, which allow you to work with more data types in new ways. For example, you can use collections of files and flexibly define how time and geometry are set for your datasets. This dataset consists of 4 CSVs. With a big data connection, all 4 CSVs are automatically used as input for the tool. We've enhanced the network dataset property pages to let you add reference landmark capabilities for directions and to let you associate a traffic feed from ArcGIS Online or Portal with your StreetMap Premium network dataset. The vehicle routing problem is now fully integrated in Pro. You can create a vehicle routing problem instance and use the ribbon to easily load orders, depots, breaks, and routes. You could also interact with settings like meeting time windows. This VRP layer has been loaded with 1 depot and 100 orders to visit with 4 vans, and the solution shows the routes and visit order for each van. You can now add standard Esri data variables to your statistical data collections. Conveniently access your favorite demographic content with variable lists. Customer-derived trade areas now contain threshold distance methods. We've added a remove overlap tool to divide overlapping trade areas. You can manage your territory design settings in one centralized location. And finally, target marketing contains new mapping layers and reports. Multidimensional analysis tools allow you to perform change detection and classification of a time series of optical data. You can also perform simple change computations and visualize the results in a bar chart. The new NITF layer allows you to work with various types of data contained in NITF files directly in Pro. You can now overwrite a web imagery layer or image service using ArcGIS Pro. The orthomapping ribbon has been streamlined for more intuitive user experience. The Adjust tool offers new options for drone imagery collected with high-accuracy GPS, such as PPK. The drone workspace now supports radiometric calibration for red edge and Altum imagery. You can now change the size and color of the stereo cursor and also control the sensitivity of the change in Z for every scroll of the mouse wheel. And the advanced labeling for the stretch renderer allows you to better understand the values in your legend. Zonal tools support overlapping zones, the percentile statistic, and multidimensional raster data. The zonal histogram tool can now create graphs. Kernel density supports barriers, so you can calculate density along a street or other network. And many local, conditional, and math tools perform band-wise map algebra to create multi-band output. The new distance tools from Spatial Analyst are also available as portal tools for raster analytics. Distance tools and raster functions from earlier releases are grouped under Legacy. The Summarize Raster Within tool now supports multidimensional processing. The new Zonal Statistics as Table tool also allows you to process overlapping polygons in multidimensional rasters, and outputs the table as a service. Finally, the Convert Raster to Feature tool has been enhanced with 2 new parameters to create a compact output for better performance. You can build pyramids for last datasets, improving the display quality and performance of point clouds in 3D. With the new Extract Multipatch from Mesh tool, you can extract 3D feature data from integrated meshes. And the Intervisibility tool has been enhanced to support integrated meshes. Visibility analysis lets you conduct visibility studies for both linear lines of sight and radial lines of sight. You can place observer points interactively or use a layer from the Contents pane, and you can configure additional visibility options for these points. Visibility analysis produces output feature classes that can be used in further analysis. Topologies can now be published as web feature layers. You could add them to a map and use existing topology tools to manage properties, edit, validate, and correct error features. When reconciling a branch version, you can now define conflicts by attribute. You can view the compatibility of attribute rules in ArcGIS client releases by enabling the release columns in the attribute rules view. You could modify a feature's geometry by creating a calculation attribute rule on the dataset's shape field. OLEDB and ODBC support allows you to create read-only connections to tabular data sources, such as Microsoft Access databases. And data stored in geopackages is now fully editable, including undo and redo capabilities. We've added to our support for the ISO 19115-3 metadata standard. You can now import and export metadata in this standard. At 2.6, we've added the option to enable or disable editing from the Editing tab. This setting can be enabled in the Editing options under Session. Once enabled, the Enable Editing button displays on the Edit ribbon. Features can't be created or modified until the Enable Editing button is clicked. The 3 intersection tools found on the editing toolbar have been enhanced. Click the first point, right-click to access and enter the direction, press Enter. Click the second point, right-click to access and enter the radius distance, press Enter. Blue lines show a preview of the features, and press Enter for Kogo-enabled lines. The values that you typed for directions and distances are stored as Kogo attributes. There are 3 new measure tools available. You can measure a direction and distance between point locations that you click on the map. You can measure an offset from a reference line, such as the building's setback from this property line. And finally, you can measure the clockwise and counterclockwise angles between any 2 lines. In the editing options, you can now modify the sketch vertex symbology. You can update a single vertex or multiple vertex symbols, with options including size, shape, and color. We also improved flashing of vertices when working with the Sketch Properties grid. At any time, you can quickly restore the default vertex symbology from the editing options. The new cul-de-sac tool makes creating cul-de-sac features much easier at 2.6. Based on the endpoint of a selected line feature, you first choose the destination feature template and then specify values for street width, radius, and return radius. Click Create to create the new cul-de-sac. Create new road edges to connect the cul-de-sac to the road casings to complete the workflow. You can now edit and maintain measure values from the Sketch Context menu for Polyline M features. To access the M Value context menu, right-click on any vertex or segment while creating a new feature. You can initially set measure values by distance or range. The values can be maintained using the Edit Vertices tool, again by right-clicking anywhere along the sketch. You can also insert vertices at specified M's and calculate nan M values. At 2.6, we've added the ability to customize horizontal grid lines and fill individually. You could also turn on vertical planes to easily construct feature geometries in 3D space with snapping precision. This functionality makes editing workflows beneath the surface much easier in an interactive control environment, and helps you create complex 3D multi-patch geometries with higher precision and fewer clicks in local scenes. We've added enhancements to the catalog pane, including being able to open the Properties dialog for a locator without having to add it to the project, and the ability to drag and drop a locator into your project. We've also streamlined the process for adding results from the Locate pane to a feature class, and for generating an in-memory graphic for a Locate result. With the new setting, which is turned on by default, textures and colors are now read directly from the BIM file workspace. When working with layers within a building layer that share the same source file, you can now add, remove, and rearrange the layers between the disciplines. A new floor plan dataset contains 4 feature classes with 2.5D geometries and 1 feature class with 3D geometry. At 2.6, you can access your BIM cloud storage, such as Autodesk BIM 360, using BIM Cloud Connection in ArcGIS Pro. After adding a new BIM cloud connection, you can download a file to your project home folder and add it to the map. If the online source is updated, refreshing the local file automatically updates the map. You also have the option to download files locally first and add them to a map or scene later. And the link to navigate directly to the online source is stored as a field in the features created in Pro. We've added support for Autodesk Civil3D entities. They can be added directly from the catalog pane to maps and scenes without any prior conversion and are rendered with their unique symbology. The properties and attributes are available for each entity as they were defined in Civil3D. They can be incorporated into a utility model or a geodatabase in a few steps. You can use Civil3D surfaces to generate a new ground surface for the project area as a reference to other elements that were created based on that surface. At 2.6, we've added new data validation checks to support attribute rule-based workflows in Data Reviewer. These include the nonlinear segment check, which finds features that contain nonlinear segments such as arcs and curves. In network datasets, features without vertex coincidence to other features can impact network connectivity and routing. The feature on feature check finds features that have user-defined spatial relationships with other features. At this release, this check is enhanced to also evaluate the feature's attributes. In this example, touching road centerline features are flagged as an error if they contain overlapping right-side address values. The utility network now supports modeling of non-spatial junctions and edge objects to work with high cardinalities of features that share a common geographical space. Dirty areas are now used to represent and manage errors generated when a feature in the utility network violates established rules and restrictions. You can specify the aggregated geometry result type option during a trace to return partial feature geometries as multipart feature classes, which you can use for further analysis. With coordinate conversion, you can start with coordinates in one format and view them in another format. You do this by importing coordinates or clicking directly on the map. After points have been collected, you can change the display of the formats and add additional information to see multiple formats at once for the same coordinate. You can then export your points to share with others. Distance and direction allows you to draw on a map and get visual feedback that includes measurements based on the input. You can measure lines, circles, ellipses, and rings. Distance and direction enables you to create features by interactively drawing on the map or by entering known coordinates and values. We've added two new obstruction identification surfaces tools based on FAA Engineering Brief 95, the Light Signal Clearance Surface tool and the PAPI Obstacle Clearance Surface tool. Several of the obstruction identification surfaces tools now allow you to create surfaces based on displaced thresholds. At 2.6, you're now able to define your product's area of interest, generate derived airspace, apply cartographic exceptions and queries, create cartographic features, and generate aviation-specific, feature-linked annotations and callouts. The Maritime Toolbox has two new toolsets within the S57 toolset, Management and Validation. In the Management toolset, the Create S57 Exchange Set tool allows a mariner to view the Electronic Navigation Chart, or ENC, datasets in an Electronic Chart Display and Information System, or ECDIS. The Export Geodatabase to S57 tool exports hydrographic data from a maritime charting geodatabase to an S57 file. And the Import S57 to Geodatabase tool imports an S57 file into a maritime charting geodatabase. In the Validation toolset, the Parse S58 log file tool parses log files produced by the Validate S57 file tool and third-party validation software against S58. The Repair Nautical Data tool runs data repair processes on a database with the nautical schema, and the Validate S57 file tool can validate ENC or inland electronic navigational chart files. Military Symbology Editor allows you to work with military symbology. You can search for human-readable keywords and enter points interactively on the map, or use attribute-driven modifiers and known coordinates to place symbols. Military Symbology Editor supports Military Standard 2525D, C, and B Change 2, as well as NATO APP 6D and B. To learn more about these and other new ArcGIS Pro features, check out the What's New in ArcGIS Pro 2.6 page in the Help documentation.